So guys, so this week we have all come together, and obviously lockdown is easing at the moment, and there's many things going on in the mainstream media, and obviously life is going to look a lot different for many people out there. So we've had a few thoughts, and we thought it was quite prevalent to sort of discuss current media situations with the George Floyd, which he sadly passed away, and obviously people do know that, and we will speak a little bit more within this group. But how has that affected people, and also how is lockdown going to look come going back into this normal world as such, and what will that look like? So I'm going to go over to Sangeeta and get your thoughts on that at the moment.
Thanks, Natalie. I think one thing that is really emerging, given what's going on in the mainstream, is that people aren't the same coming out of lockdown as they were going in. I think, if I look for myself, what mattered to me 3 months ago is not what matters to me. My goals have shifted, my purpose has shifted, my intention of what my life is about has shifted. And, to come to the George Floyd incident, I think what it has reactivated in a lot of people, certainly for myself as well, is that given the amount of lives lost over the last 3 months globally, but especially in the UK and even especially in the Northwest, I think people are coming out of lockdown grieving. I think they're coming out of lockdown scared, like what is life out there like? For myself, I haven't been into central Liverpool 3 months. I don't know what it feels like to be walking it through town, and I think that there's a lot of high emotion present, certainly with the whole George Floyd thing, talking to clients, talking to people on Zoom calls every day, even though that's not the agenda, that seems to be on everyone's minds. And I think it is related to one's own grief and one's own loss, whether it's a friend or a family member, whether it's a job, whether it's a future that they had planned for 2020 that isn't coming to fruition. And I think what is required is a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy, a lot of care, that we're all coming out of this lockdown in different places, and to just be aware of that, and to be able to talk about wherever people are at regarding coming out of lockdown and what they're dealing with.
Yeah, it is a good point that you make. It is a grieving process, and it's all encompassing emotions, isn't it? It's very much, I've had my own personal grief, as many of you know, but it is a very strange feeling. I say you almost can't sometimes express how it is, but it is almost a form of grieving that we're all going through. And when you see somebody pass away, and obviously in this situation that he did, it does obviously flood a lot of emotions, and then you sort of, everything's a little bit more heightened. So I can understand what you mean in that respect, Sangeeta. So
I also just think that because we haven't been able to grieve over the last 3 months in the way that we normally would, that it's unresolved for a lot of people, that grief. That's why I think we do need to tread carefully and be compassionate and be considerate of where people might be at.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone needs to show a little bit more compassion, definitely. Basil, so over to you. What are your thoughts?
When I think about it, I'm going to say it in a kind of selfish way. The reason I got into coaching was to help people. You want to help people through their grief. You want to help people through their pain. You want to help people through their limiting beliefs. And what we see at the moment, we just see a whole collective, a mass of people that have been afraid, that are in pain, that are hurting. And it seems like, for me, that whole collective pain has spilled out onto the streets. And you can look at the different triggers, the things that have triggered it. But when I think and I start looking at it in depth, it's pain, it's hurt, it's it's fear, it's that sense of losing someone, because I've lost both my parents, and that sense of loss is something that you never lose, you just learn to live with it. And it's almost like the whole nation coming to terms with that sense of loss. We've all lost something, and what we witnessed with the George Floyd thing, I think what it's done, it's been like that thing that the cork's been pulled now. The cork's gone off the bottle, and everyone is collectively want to release that pain in whatever way it comes. For some, sadly, it's come out in violence and things like that. And for others, it's different. It comes out in different ways. But we're all dealing with grief and pain, and it's almost having a collective understanding that we all grieve and show our pain in different ways, and no one way's right. And we shouldn't make people feel condemned for feeling that pain, but help people work their ways through it and allow them to go through it at their pace. Because I know for me, it's like the worst thing I used to find when people used to ask me, are you all right? No, I'm not all right. No, I'm not all right. Oh, it's going to get better. No, it's not going to get better, because I've lost something that I'm not going to recover. So it's not going to get better. I'm not going to forget it. So it's almost allowing people to go through the stages of death and the stages of grief that happen, and just being there for them and being a listener, because everyone's got their individual pain, and then bring that together, we get a collective pain, which is what we're seeing poured out on the streets. So it's almost like Sangeeta said, and like you said, Natalie, having that understanding that we allow people to go through the process.
Mm-hmm. It is, isn't it? And that's the thing, I think, is, and you hit the nail on the head, then it's, everyone goes through it very differently, and it's that old, are you okay? No, I'm not actually okay. And it's okay not to be okay, as the saying has been seen all around, recently over the past sort of 12 months. And everyone has to go through it in different ways, but as you say, now is very different because it's a collective. Everybody is feeling that emotion. I mean, yeah, if I had £1 for every time that somebody said if I was okay, it's like, I don't we've had a joke about this before, haven't we, Basil? It is a very, unless you've gone through it, it's, no one truly understands that pain. But it's, yeah, it's a strange emotion. So Amy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just to from what Basil's just said about pain, we're experiencing pain, grief, sadness, fear on a global level. It's not just affecting individual towns and cities and one country, it's affecting the entire world. And I think that in some way this period of time is going to really help people to learn and to understand what's important and meaningful. And I believe that the only thing that can eradicate or to ease pain, sadness, fear, adversity is love. And that's what I always go back to every single time. How can I love someone more? How can I show my love to others? How can I reach out to someone and give them my kindness and compassion? Because I believe that if we all stand together and show love, the energy of love, we can drown out or reduce the pain. And I think that people are feeling a lot of fear at the moment, a lot of fear, and it is manifesting into anxiety, It really, really is. And I think that us as coaches, I think that's our priority, to help people and show our love.
No, it is.
Ultimately,
It is, and I think that's the point. It's when,
that sounds simple, but that's what I feel, and I truly believe in that. Love is an energy, and it's the strongest energy, the strongest emotion. And how can we channel that?
Yeah, I think we've had conversations about this, and I agree with you. It's, love is the strongest emotion, and I think, as the some sayings, love overconquers all. And I think if we can spread a little bit and help as much people as we can, and get that message across, as you said before, this fear is manifesting, but we can equally manifest, love and abundance, empathy, care, compassion is an equal energy that we need to be counteracting the manifestation of fear, anxiety. How do you feel that people's purposes are changing? Do you feel that, with that, is there a change in people's views?
I think lots of people's views are changing. I think lots of people are now educating themselves as well, in particular to the recent event involving George. And I think lots of people are educating themselves, they're learning, they're thinking about their own children and how they can educate their own children and pass that on. I think people are taking action towards that. And I think in terms of the pandemic, I think a lot of people have been given a lot of time. And when we're given time and space, we start to go through a process. What do I want? What do I truly want from my life? What do I desire? What's meaningful to me? Now everything's been taken away from me. What do I really want? I mean, I can't, the amount of times that I've seen people say, nothing else is important to me apart from having physical contact with my family. I don't care about anything right now. All I want to do is hug my mum. All I want to do is see my family. And that, I think, is evoking a change and a shift in people's focus and ultimately then purpose. I think as well, it's making people realize that what was considered to be secure prior to this is perhaps not as secure as they previously thought. So people in jobs which they dislike, that they just do day in, day out, but they've done it for a sense of security. Maybe they're starting to think in different ways, changing the direction and course of their life, learning a new skill, getting a new hobby, starting a new project, all of those things. I think it's really helping people to follow the direction of what they really desire, as opposed to what they should be doing. This is just my perspective. And I think it's also putting an emphasis on self-care as well, and doing the little things in life, the little things now matter. Like for me, I've started baking and cooking, and I really, meal times for me is really important now, whereas before it was just food to eat. Now I make such a big deal of it. Tiny little things, being in nature, going out for walks, taking a stop to look at the world that we live in, you know, the beauty of it still is beautiful. Our planet is still beautiful if we take the time to look around and see that. I think it's slowing things down so people can start to appreciate things.
Mm-hmm.
That's my view. And yeah, I think even though it's very difficult time for lots and lots of people, whether this is the optimist in me, I don't know, but I genuinely believe that we will shift into a new earth, a new world.
Yeah, I think you've made a really good point, and you know, it's always good to have optimism, Amy. I think that we've all got to have that. Otherwise, I think, you know, if we didn't remain optimistic over the world and how it was going to be seen in the future, then, you know, we'd be questioning ourselves, why do we do what we do?
Mm.
You know, thanks for that, Amy. And obviously, you know, going over to Joanne, you know, obviously lockdown is easy, and, you know, what are your thoughts on, you know, what people have mentioned, and, you know, do you see how current events are at the moment affecting people's grief, and do you see that there is a change in people's purpose? Can you speak there?
Yeah, I think going with the optimism that Amy started just now, as awful as this has all been, I think it's given us, in differing degrees, a taste of uncertainty and a not very nice way of life for a little bit, which is helping some people who perhaps had an easier time of it to understand what others are going through or have had to go through. Because I think, as somebody said before, until you actually go through a big loss yourself, there's no way that you could possibly understand it. I know before I had a major loss in my life, I used to say the platitudes that everybody expects you to say, and I said it with a good heart, but I had no idea what that person was going through. So I think on varying levels, we've all had a taste of what it's like to have some kind of loss. We all grieve in different ways, and that comes out in different ways. And I think this incident with George Floyd has been the last straw that broke the camel's back in a lot of ways. And what I hope more than anything, and I understand that people get so angry, quite rightly, are filled with anger and rage about the awful things that happened. I'm just hoping that now we've got a better sense of community. People have been volunteering and doing what they can through the COVID, that we can harness that sense of community and harness the energy, hopefully turning it from the negative energy to do some good. And I think it's raised awareness. And I think, whereas in the past, when these awful things have happened and it's been headline news for a couple of days, and in some circles people have then moved on, I think now it's resonated a lot more. And I think people want change, and I think people will come together to make sure that it's not just a one day headline and things will change. That's my belief. And I think the other thing that's been good about the lockdown, looking on the optimistic side of it, is that we've all had to come out of our comfort zone in some way. And now that that's happened, perhaps people are more open to trying new things. I mean, a lot of it's going to be enforced new ways of doing things anyway, but people can look at themselves and say, actually, I came through this okay. I'm okay. We survived. We've had to do things differently. We've had to cut back on things because, you know, we haven't been earning or whatever it might be, but we've survived. We've found different ways of doing things. And yeah, perhaps we ought to do a little bit more of this and investigate what else we can do. So yeah, hopefully, although it's a horrible, horrible lesson, horrible way for us to have all come to this point, I honestly believe that out of it there will be a lot of good things as well on the in the different levels and different areas of life.
Yeah. Oh no, it's as you say then, it's change, isn't it? And change for anything and anyone in any situation is a scary thing. So yeah, no, you made some really good points there, Joanne, so thank you. Last but not least, obviously over to Roger. So your thoughts on the current lockdown and, you know, everything we've discussed today.
Okay, well, with regards to lockdown, I would say it definitely had an impact on my life, but in a strange way, probably a positive impact, because I had to reorganize myself, and hopefully everybody else we are going to learn as a nation, as you know, everyone on this planet. And hopefully most people are going to learn from it. I'm just concerned that a lot of them are not, they're expecting life to be coming back to normal like it was before. And I've changed a lot of my habits. For example, I have never eaten so healthy for the last 2 months that I have done before.
Oh, I'd like to say I was the same, Roger. No.
So I am eating vegetables twice a day, every single day. If I miss a day, that will be one time. Yeah. So I don't. So there is some cooking at the minute in the slow cooker. I had some earlier before I came on this. Yeah. So that's a good habit. I have changed. With regards to my own experience, I mentioned my own experience because everybody else I mentioned was going on in the world and all that. So I don't want to repeat what people have said. With regard to my own experience, I've become more organized, which I think was definitely necessary. Yeah, I've got a few more steps I've got some improvements still to do to get where I want to be in terms of organizing myself, and also learning a few different skills, and then we choose what we want to learn. Now, hopefully people are going to take that into account and take this opportunity of confinement. Yeah, it would be nicer if it happened in another way, but then this pandemic could be happening for a reason, because we'll not be looking after our planet, not really. Yeah.
No, we haven't. I agree in that one, Roger. Definitely. I definitely agree. We've not been looking after the planet in any way, shape or form. I think that's probably another topic for another day, because we could go on quite significantly about that. But it's nice to hear your stories and some positive stories that you've experienced during lockdown and the habits you've changed. I mean, as I say, I think I could have tried to have picked that habit as well to eat better, but I do try. But no, it's really good to hear some, you know, personal experiences from you, Roger.
Yeah, and I think, as Basil said earlier, it brought people together in a lot of ways, more. So I have interacted with people I didn't think I would have interacted with before the lockdown. Yeah. So it's interesting how things have shifted. And so, yeah, and hopefully we learn from it. And hopefully our leaders are going to learn from it. But I don't hold my breath with some of them.
Yeah. I think politics and looking at different leaders is definitely another topic for another day, Roger. But thank you guys for everyone that's sharing everything. And it's good to sort of get an insight. And, you know, if we can help one person by what we're saying and know that they're not alone in how their thoughts and their feelings are, then, you know, we can at least, you know, as John would say, throw that starfish, at least if it's one, we're doing something good in one person's life. Thank you.